Right. Good morning, everybody. I want to start this lecture. It is just gone 8 o'clock, and we are going to be talking about maths problems and support today. So I know that you have had previously some lectures on maths from some of the other lecturers, but today I want to speak to you specifically about the things that will be relevant for the next assignment that you are doing for Remedial Foundations in this particular course. So we're going to be having a look at this amazing thing of maths. I'm just checking. The microphone is on. So when we speak about maths, we are speaking about all the different concepts that relate to this amazing thing that we have invented as people, that we can represent this complex world in which we live, that we can represent it in symbols, and that the symbols and the numbers represent very clear items. So we represent the world of length and numbers, size, space, measurement. We are representing that all in numerical form. And so it is a complex system that has developed over time as our understanding of the world has grown and as people have become more familiar and required to have very complex computations. If you think about computer programs and the complexity of the technology in the world in which we live, that has all required us to have a very good understanding of the complexity of maths. And we need to explicitly teach maths, so we have to be very clear about how it is taught in schools, and therefore the curriculum is very structured and hierarchically based, from very simple concepts going up to very much more complex ones, and it builds on one another. So often what happens with learners who are having learning problems and problems with maths is that they will have difficulty with some underlying foundational skill that is not put in place. And so we need to go back as remedial teachers and see where the difficulties are that the child is having, and explicitly teach those concepts, reteach them. And the language around maths is also very precise. And so we are not only teaching the symbols and the operations and how to manipulate these things, but we are also teaching all the language of the maths as it is very, very precise language as well. And then please be aware that children who have any kind of learning problems often have underlying anxiety, simply because they're having difficulty with doing. Can I just ask people to turn microphones off when they're joining the session, please? Somebody, can you just, Godfrey, can you turn your microphone off, please? Godfrey. Thank you. So we support the underlying anxiety that children exhibit when children have learning problems. The learning problem is exacerbated by the emotional impact of it. And so children are anxious, their self-esteem is gets eroded, and we need to create a safe space for them to learn whatever concepts we are trying to teach them. The safe space should be one where mistakes can be made, and we as remedial teachers use mistakes as a learning opportunity. So we can see what the child is doing incorrectly when they're doing their computations, and use that as an opportunity to do the corrections and to use it as a learning space. Because when we are doing something, making a mistake, that should be seen as an area where the child needs remediation, and we can assist them with that. Okay. Another crucial aspect of remediation is to find opportunities where the child can experience success. If you are in a space where you feel that you can do something, even if it's very small little steps of things, it assists with the positive experiences that the child has. And we want to keep positive experiences in our minds when we are remediating constantly, with positive comments and showing learners exactly which things they're doing correctly, so that they can feel that they are able to achieve, even if it's very small steps in the remediation as they are learning maths. And we need to practice maths a lot, and so do multiple repetitions of items. Can I just ask everyone to turn their microphones off, please? Okay, so I want to start speaking up front about the next part of the assignment. So we are all busy working on assignment number 4, and assignment 4 has got a number of questions. There are 4 questions related to that you have to do. Each one is worth 25 marks. We've already discussed questions 1 and 2. So today we're talking about question 3, which is on maths. And I have opened up in Moodle, I have opened the unit on maths so that you can see the content there. There is a lot of documents to download, and please do remember to download documents while you have access to the Moodle, to this course in Moodle, and they will assist you with doing this assignment. So I have asked you to have a look at one specific skill or concept in maths, because there are so many different aspects to maths that we can investigate, and we you don't know which one you're going to need to remediate. But for this assignment, I want you to choose one specific fundamental concept or skill. And so I've listed some of the fundamental crucial aspects that we need to be aware of, and we need to know how to devise teaching aids and worksheets, and have some strategies of how these particular concepts will be taught when we have learners who are having difficulty with these in our remedial spaces. So we're going to, and I'm going to very briefly go through some of these just to give you an idea of what they all entail. And you are going to choose one of these, only one, for your assignment. And you're going to explain what the concept is, and then you're going to create some kind of a teaching aid or some worksheets, and explain very clearly how you would use this particular item that you've made, or the strategy, how you would use it in remediation with either one child or a group of children. But I want to see how you would actually how you would actually remediate these particular concepts. So while I'm going through this presentation very briefly this morning, keep that in mind, that you're going to be choosing which of the fundamental maths concepts you want to work on for this particular question. Okay, so I'm not going to go in detail, but I'm going to give an overview of the fundamental concepts, and then we'll take questions at the end. So it's really important that children are able to do sorting, and sorting is one of the preliminary concepts required in order to have an understanding of how maths works. And we can ask children to sort different shapes, different sized items, different colored items, and I've given some ideas here of how you can do that. So you can just cut out various different shapes, circles and triangles and squares and rectangles, and have a little cup with a representation of those shapes, and the children have to pick up the particular shape that is in little cards and put them into the cups. You could also have various items that are different sizes, so from small, medium, large sizes, the same kind of an item. You could make these out of Play-Doh or plasticine, and you don't have to buy expensive things, and preferably I do preferably want in your assignment to see that you are using everyday material that is readily available, and that you're not spending money buying expensive items and equipment, because you could use bottle tops and stones and various kinds of cardboard and just cut things out and color them. So there are all sorts of ways to make material without spending a lot of money on it. So please use everyday, we call it everyday useful junk that is in your house, and see how you can use that for remedial, to create remedial exercises. And then also with the sorting exercise, a useful thing is to use a tweezers or a peg, so that we're also working on the pincer grip and strengthening the child's hands while that is being done. So another fundamental skill for maths is matching. And here we need to do lots of activities where we are matching things that are the same or things that are different. So it's a skill to be able to see items that have the same shape, the same color. Here are some worksheets showing fruit like bananas and apples and oranges and so on, and there's two of each, but the child has to put them together. You can either have little cards on a table that need to be matched together, or they can be in a worksheet where you've got to draw a line from one item to another that are the same. So you can use shapes, stars, diamonds, actual objects, such as in this drawing teacups and buttons and flowers and so on, different kinds of soccer balls with different patterns. And please note that you can, all these activities can range from very simple where it's very clear that there's only one or two characteristics that are the same or different, up to more complex ones, like in this drawing of all the different balls, where they have very complex patterns, and so you need to be able to very clearly see where the patterns are different. Godfrey, can you turn your microphone off, please? Thank you. You can use real things like dominoes, which also require you to find little patterns of, the twos that are the same, or things that are different. And there are lots and lots of activities that start with basic shapes and colors, and then you can work up to worksheets that have actual numbers on them as well. The ones, twos, threes, fours, and so on. Another fundamental skill for learning maths is sequencing. And so when we are sequencing, we have to learn patterns. So you can sequence, for instance, little rods that are going from small to large, and put them in order, ascending or descending. You can put patterns in that in different orders, so yellows, blue, yellow, blue, and the various items that you can use can be physical items like blocks or little cutouts of shapes. And sequencing can range from very simple, where you're just looking at all items are the same, but they vary in size, or they have two characteristics that change, like in these examples, there's little yellow ducks and little blue stars. So you need to be able to recognize shape and color and see what the pattern is. So there is a yellow duck and then a blue star, and a yellow duck and a blue star. So that's a simple pattern of alternating items. And these patterns can get more and more complex, so that you can have maybe two items that are replicating themselves, or three items, and so on. So the complexity of the fundamental skills can also be modified depending on the child's age and what skill they actually can do. So sequencing and patterns is a really useful underlying foundational skill for children. With maths, one wants to work from concrete objects through the semi-concrete phase to the abstract numbers. So the actual symbols on the page, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and the plus, minus, equal signs, all of those are abstract symbols. So we can't oh dear. Are you all able to hear me? I'm getting messages that people are not able to hear me. Oh, okay. So you can hear me. There's some other issues. Okay. So let me just talk about concrete to abstract again. So when we are teaching maths and you're doing remediation, particularly for maths issues, you need to work on the concrete level when you are teaching any addition, subtraction, and so on. And the concrete level means that you have to have real objects that the child can physically feel and touch and manipulate. So you have little blocks that fit together, real stones, sweets, whatever, beans and things. So a concrete thing that you put together in whatever the maths operation is that's being shown. Concrete. Then you move to representational or semi-concrete. And this is where you are drawing now on a page. So you need paper and a pen, and you are actually making little circles, little lines, tally marks, sometimes even little drawings of the items if the child still needs to draw 5 little men or little apples or whatever. And you are drawing on the page, you're representing the concrete operation that's taking place. And only once children have worked through that semi-concrete representational skill quite a lot, then they move to the abstract. So a 1, a 2, 3, 4, 5, and the symbols, the math symbols, are very abstract. So a 4 is just some lines on the page. It doesn't, you have to really have had a lot of experience with counting 4 beans to know that that is a 4. So please work a lot with these stages and be very aware that you need to do concrete and semi-concrete work. Sometimes we are doing far too much work in the abstract sphere and not going back to ensure that these fundamental concepts are understood. So we also teach maths concepts in stages, and just be aware that children are going through these stages. So when you first are introduced to a concept, the concept is very vague. We really don't understand what it is. If you think about some of the complex concepts in maths, geometry, cos and sine, all those very complex things, they are vague, and sometimes you could have an intuitive understanding of them, but we need to have lots and lots of examples and lots of similar examples to teach particular concepts. And we need to do it repeatedly. So we need to, and that is why it's so important that maths is done every single day in classrooms. And if you are doing maths remediation, to work very closely with the teachers so that you are remediating the actual concepts that are being taught at school, and giving additional examples in different ways, more concrete, more representational, so that there's lots of practice happening, and only with practice and lots of repetition do the maths concepts become well grasped. And then the schema, so if you think of Piaget's schema building in your brain, only then do the schema become well established so that you can retrieve them out of long-term memory. And in order to do all of this, we use lots of manipulatives, so lots of teaching aids. And here's an example of a teaching aid that has been made around a number line. So there is a number line from 1 to, this one goes from 1 to 12 on a strip of paper. And the teacher has made a tree that slides, the bark of the tree, the stem of the tree slides over the number line, and the learner is using dice. So in this case, the number 9 is visible in the tree trunk, and the dice show a 4 and a 5 and a plus sign in between and an equal sign in between. So the child must move the dice to show that those two dice equal that number. So 4 plus 5 equals 9, and then put 9 little items on as the fruit of the tree. So you're looking for creative ways to make teaching aids that are going to teach the concepts and allow the child to sit there and repeat it in a concrete way without too much worksheets and abstract things. A crucial fundamental skill of maths is being able to count, and there are stages that learners go through learning to count. And initially, everything should be counted out aloud. So if you're sitting with a child, count squares, buttons, little blocks, little spoons, count everything out aloud. If you do watch children who are learning how to count and learning how to do addition in particular, and you say, for instance, you've got 2 spoons and you're going to add 3 spoons and I put 3 spoons with it. How many spoons will I have all together? So you put these manipulatives out for children to work with. What will happen in the initial stages of learning maths, the child will count all of the items. So you can count out 2 spoons and then you count 3, you add them together. The child will count all the items starting at 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We want to move to the next level where you count on. And counting on means that you take one of the numbers. So let's say I've got 2 spoons and I put this number 2 in my head and I remember I've got 2, and then I count on from that 3, 4, 5. So that is the next level where the child is doing mental, the maths is now starting to get put into your head, if I can put it like that. So you have to remember that number, the first number in your head, and then you count on. And you can also do this activity if you want to do subtraction. So you've got, let's say, a 7 in your head, and you minus 3, 7, 6, 5, 4. So you're counting backwards. So we need to do counting forwards and counting backwards as well to learn the addition and the subtraction, those basic fundamentals. So have a look very carefully how children are doing their operations with the manipulatives that you give them, because it will give you a clue as to which stage of counting they are in. Then you can use hundreds charts, and you should have lots and lots of examples of hundreds charts in your remedial space. There are charts that have all sorts of different colors, and you can make your own quite easily with cardboard and just writing the numbers, and then laminate them so that they are very useful to use. Use them in lots and lots of very different ways besides just learning to count. And counting all is sometimes we don't do it enough. And when you're counting, ensure that the child is pointing to each of the numbers, so they're looking at them and seeing them and saying them out aloud initially. And the counting should be a rhythmic activity that doesn't have lots of stops and starts. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the rhythm of the counting is also important to learn how numbers work. You can count in 2s, you can count in 10s, you can count starting at different places on the number line. So you can count in 10s starting at 6, and you can go 6, 16, 26, 36 all the way down. And so lots of different varied ways. You can give hundreds charts that have some blocks missing and ask the child to fill them in, and then you can work up to numbers charts, the 100 chart that has no numbers on it, and they have to fill in all the numbers and write them correctly. So it's both oral language learning, and it's the handwriting exercise of writing the numbers and writing them quick and fast that is also taught doing using hundreds charts. And then you can teach tables and bonds using these. So please have them in your remedial spaces. They're very, very useful to use. Then there's this is a picture of a hundreds chart, and I need to thank Dr. Liz for this. So you make a little a cardboard that fits on the top of your hundreds chart. So the blue cardboard fits on top here, and it's as you slide it along the chart, you can then investigate numbers. So if you look here, the number 55 is the number in the chart, and if you the number below that, 10 more of 55 is 65, 10 less is 45. To the right of 55 is 56, so it's one more, and to the left of 55 is one less. So you can move this little blue overlay onto various different numbers of your number chart, and children talk through the 10 more, 10 less, 1 less, so that they are also learning the concepts around the numbers. So all of this is making much deeper understanding of how the decimal system of numbers works. Teach the language of maths. Maths language is crucial to learn, and you can make yourself lots of cool posters. Like this one, which says the plus sign, and there's a symbol of the plus sign, and all the words around plus: addition, add, plus, more than, find the sum of, and then the Afrikaans words, optel, and words in other indigenous languages as well. So make one for each of the operations: plus, minus, subtraction, and division. And teach the language around these abstract signs that and symbols that we use in maths. And then teaching bonds is crucial. Here's a cool example of using little fingers that are cut out. The palm is stuck onto the page, and the fingers fold down and move. So children can use their own fingers, but they can also use visual representations like this that you can make on a worksheet and use for teaching bonds, so that you can get the automatic understanding of how these numbers add up to a particular number. In this case, it's decimal bonds adding up to 10. But you can also do it with other useful numbers such as 5, and it's important to have these basic 5s, 10s, bonds very well established in or they must be automatically accessible for people to use, so that your mental maths improves. And then you also should show all variations, all representations of particular items. And thank you to Dr. Liz again for this one. Here she's made a little page, and it shows the number 15 and how this can be represented in different ways. So at the top of the little page, and it's got a little fold out so that children can open and look at one at a time. We can see that 15 is made up of 3 times 5, and there's 3 sets of 5 little dots. So that's a semi-concrete representation. You can also represent it by little squares, little crosses or little lines in 3 little lines of 5 items each. It can also be represented as 5 3s, so it's 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3, 5, 5 of those gives you 15. You could also do 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, and that also gives you 15, and there are 5 of those. And then you can have a little number line where you do jumping from 0 to 3, 6, 9, 12, 15 along the number line. So having multiple ways of representing the concepts that you're teaching is very useful, and this is a good example, and you can do this for all sorts of different numbers and different operations as well. Then one of the other items that I've given that you could choose is looking at how to teach tables, and then lots and lots of different ways of doing tables. Here's just one example using different flashcards, and you on one side of the flashcard will be the operation. For instance, if you look at the 6 times 3, and then on the back will be the answer written in small little letters or numbers, so that the children can play these games with each other, and you can show it to one person, one child can show another child, and without seeing the card, they will know whether they're giving the right answer. So lots of ways of practicing how to use cards that assist to ensure that our numbers are being learned very, very automatically. We want to get to very quick representation, quick rote learning of these things. Then you can also create cool games, and you can play the game of bingo, give children cards, and on the little cards can be various different tables, operations that you want them to learn. There's the red one at the bottom shows addition, and there's some division and multiplication in the top cards. And then you play bingo, and if you find the answer, you put one person calls it out, you play it with a group of children, 2 or 3 children together, and they each get a little card, and whoever makes a row across or down or a diagonal of a certain number together, that person then wins, and you can give them a little sweet. So playing games such as bingo are really, really useful for teaching. What you're looking for is multiple methods of representing the concept that you want to teach, and this is an example of using games. Then another fundamental concept which needs to be looked at in remedial sessions is teaching the concept of zero, and this needs to be well taught, so explicitly taught, so that children really, really understand it. So 3 plus 0 is 3, 3 minus 0 is still 3, but 3 times 0 is 0, and you can't divide by 0. So make posters and find ways to teach the concept of 0 and how it gets used in the operations very explicitly in remedial practice. A crucial fundamental concept is learning place value, And there are all sorts of posters that you can make to show how the units and the tens and the hundreds and the thousands, how they work and how numbers work within this place value system. Uh, the figures at the bottom showing actually using little blocks that all come together, that little units, and then you put 10 of them together, and then that makes tens, and then you put 10 of those little strips together and they make a little square of 100. And so you get really lovely manipulatives that you can use, but you can also make your own. It doesn't have to be bought ones. And there's some examples of posters that you can also make to help you with teaching children how these uh, how place value works. And then here's an example using bought. These are like blocks that like similar to Lego, but they're much bigger, and they fit together. And you can use the single blocks for units and the doubles for tens, and then hundreds and thousands, and you can write on these plastic blocks. So learning using blocks, and then also using whiteboards and little chalkboards, anything that assists with teaching place value that is concrete and not necessarily all worksheet based. Then you can also have a look at fractions, and we need to teach fractions explicitly. Here's an example using paper plates. So a whole paper plate, cut it in half, cut it in quarters, cut it in thirds, cut it in eighths. Teaching the language of fractions, fifths, sixths, sevenths, and writing the actual words out as well as the symbols. Teaching the different types of fractions, and there's some examples here of the different posters that can be made to show how fractions are, for instance, added, and how you can manipulate fractions. So using concrete things, and also making cool teaching aids to show the particular concept that is being taught. So the general rules, if we think about all of this, we're using a variety of ways to teach learners. A lot of our strategies and things that we use are concrete, so it's real items that we are using that we can manipulate. And the more that we use them, the more the more children can visualize and internalize the actual items that we're teaching. And by doing all of this, we're using lots of different strategies to think through maths problems, and also relating maths to items in the real world. So, cut an apple in half. So real world things that we are working with. And as remedial teachers, remember that you need to remain flexible. If you see that something's not working with a particular child, or the child doesn't have the basic knowledge of that particular item, please go back and teach it and remediate. We are working with gaps in children's knowledge. We're working with spaces where children don't understand things. And so therefore you have to be quite flexible and use a variety of different ways to solve problems. Also understand that time is required. We learn maths slowly, incrementally, by doing it many, many different times. And you need to have a variety of different problems to solve in order for the maths, which is a complex system, in order for it to be well understood and really have a good knowledge of it. And remember to focus on language, maths language. As you are teaching, let learners speak this. So it's not only teacher talk, children must speak aloud. And that is a really good way when you are hearing yourself speaking your through things for children to improve their problem solving by speaking through speaking aloud what it is that you're busy doing. And then playing lots of games and doing cooperative learning where children learn together and speak to each other about the problems that they are working through together. Please go and have a look. I think I've put up most of these sites there, and I'm sure you'd be able to find lots of other different apps and websites and games. There's a lot of online things that on online spaces that you can go to for teaching maths, for learners to do maths. But for this assignment and also for your remedial work, please work far more hands-on with concrete, actual manipulatives, things that children are already doing, because we know from research in how the brain works that if your hands and your fingers are touching things, manipulating things, doing things, that those neural pathways are much stronger and you have a much better intuitive understanding than if you're just doing everything on a screen and looking at other visuals that somebody's that are created. So understand that there's a space for learning, for using all the websites and the apps, but for your assignment, I want you to be working on something far more concrete and real and realistic. Okay, so just to conclude, maths focuses on patterns and relationships between items, and it's important that children are able to master maths in modern society. Everything in society is based on maths. Understand that learners with maths problems have a lot of anxiety. They avoid maths, they often have a slow rate of working through it, and they usually will because they've got gaps and they don't have good underlying foundational knowledge, they are confused by the concepts. And so as remedial teachers, it's our job to assist these learners to achieve success in their maths. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the teams and see if there are any questions that people might have posted, and I'm going to give you a chance to have a little chat to me, and let's see what queries we can assist with. Okay, Tammy, can you turn your
Hi there,
microphone
morning,
on?
Dr. Fourie. I just
Morning,
have
Tammy.
2 questions. At the start of our lecture, we spoke about kind of wanting to take it back to where the students are finding their difficulties. But in my mind, what kind of boggles me and where I maybe need your insight is what happens when we have older learners who are stuck on grade 1 concepts? How do we play catch up in that kind of sense when we're remediating those for those learners? Because even with my case learner that I've realized he's missed the grade 0 fundamentals. Grade 1 is moving at such a quick pace. To take time to catch up on grade 0, he misses out on so many concepts of grade 1.
Exactly. And this is why it's so crucial that there's really good teaching taking place at all these foundational grades. So all you can do, and my best advice is that you must do as much as you can do in the space and the time that you have been given with that child. So choose a weakness or an area Sorry, Tammy, thanks. Somebody else's microphone is on. If someone can just turn their microphones off, please. So Tammy, my suggestion is that you choose an area, a space that, sorry, I just want to mute this person. Is that you choose a space that you can work with that child. So yes, we can't catch everything up of every child that is sitting in higher grades that has missed out on stuff. But we can, Sarah, let me just mute you. But we can choose an area, and you can say, I'm going to choose this particular concept or space, and work on that. And also just be realistic about what it is that you can and can't, what the learner can and can't achieve, even though they might have fallen behind. And trying to also put a home program in place is useful, because then you can also send more work home so that other concepts can be practiced on a daily basis. So often a remedial teacher will only see a child once a week. And so to clearly think through what are they going to do for the rest of the week, because remember, we want to do maths and reading, you want to be doing it on a daily basis. So what things can be going home, and prioritizing which areas are the crucial ones that you think that that child needs to work on, and then trying to focus on the priorities, the crucial things. Tammy, I hope that that will help a bit.
Yes, and then I just have one more question, not to take up too much time, but would you include in these small group math sessions kind of bringing in songs and rhymes if you're working with younger learners, despite maybe them also having language challenges?
Yes, absolutely. There's a strong link between maths and music. So if you have any kind of rhymes, any little songs, any ditties that are explaining the whatever concept it is, definitely to use those.
Okay, thanks, Doctor.
Yeah. Okay. Sue?
Morning, Dr. Jean. Question I posted in the chat is, when choosing our concept, etc., are we guided by the deficits of our case learner and how we'd address that? So, for instance, Tammy saying that, the case learner is in X grade, but they're functioning in this particular area at so many grades lower. Or do we simply choose a one of these mathematical areas that appeal to us and choose a grade level and create materials that appeal to us at that grade level?
I think it's a really useful idea, Sue, if you do relate it to the case child you're working with, because then then you'll be creating a teaching aid, and you'll be creating something that you can use with that particular learner. But you don't have to. So I'm not making it obligatory that you link this with your case child. But if you can, that would be useful, because you'd be doing two things at the same time. So definitely that would be a useful thing to do. Okay. I'm just going to see if there are any other queries that people have. And then I see we're getting to the 9 o'clock session. So I'm going to say goodbye then, and please contact the tutor. And if you have any further queries, Nola will be able to let me know how it's going with everybody and queries on that. Okay.